Very warm good afternoon to the dignitaries on the dais. Very cheerful good afternoon to the audience who are taking active participation in the discussion. It's really motivating for a student like me. I am Mayur, PhD student at the Department of Energy Science and Engineering, IIT Bombay. And I'm going to talk about the modeling and simulation of standalone PV wind battery hybrid system. I think most of the terminologies are familiar to the audience except the last part, that's the physics-based battery models, which is the main contribution of my research. I would like to thank the previous speaker, Mr. Thomas, who has set a perfect ground for the hybrid power system. And he talked about the Iceland and the remote locations. So my works deal with that because the standalone terms means it's not connected to the grid system. After that, Mr. Krogel, who is also a PhD student from the academia, he talked about his PhD research. He's from electrical background and he talked about the electrical point of view about the energy management system. So you have seen it's quite interdisciplinary area. And I am the last person before the lunch, between you and lunch, so I will try to keep it short and simple for you. So let's start with a small story. An interesting story about a young boy whose name is Mayur. So Mayur purchased this mobile, a smartphone. He was very happy. He charged his mobile and mobile shows 100% charge and battery lasts for 2 days. After continuous use of 2 years, Mayur is quite frustrated because when he charges his mobile and mobile shows 100% charge, still it will last for 1 day. So initially, he had to charge once in a 2 day. After continuous use of 2 years, the same battery, the same phone which show 100% charge, he has to charge once in a day. Why? What is the problem? If you want to answer, you have to pay attention to my presentation because I'm going to explain this in 1 or 2 slides. So this is the overview of the presentation, a standard academic presentation. I will start with the introduction and then main contribution, and I will show some simulation results. But more likely, I will try to address these 3 questions: what, so what, and now what. I will try to answer these 3 questions for each and every subpoints. So let's see the present scenario of the world. This is a very nice paper published in the Nature. It shows the past, present, and forecast of the world energy need. And it was predicted that by 2050, we have to double our energy production rate. And the population, which is already around 6 billion in 2000, will be 8.2 billion people. So many people will require a huge amount of energy. If we think of the top 10 electricity consuming countries, India will come at the 3rd place. But that is not a point. Can you see the gap between the country at the 2nd place and the country at the 3rd place? There's a huge gap between this and this. And sooner or later, the electricity consumption of India will match to the country which is at 2nd stage. So now the question is how we are going to generate such a huge amount of energy. So what? If we see the world gross electricity production by source, so still the maximum energy production is from the fossil fuels, and coal is a dominating player. Solar is, this much is the solar percentage, but now this share is increasing slowly, and it's a good symbol. But why does this matter? Because if you see the Asian countries, the CO2 emissions has increased from 1990 to 2016. You can see this is the China, earlier it was this one, and this is India, now this is the CO2 emission of India. So as we discuss, all the policymakers and world leaders assembled in the Paris, they all are talking about the decarbonization and reduction in the CO2 emission. But at the same time, we have to satisfy the energy demand of the developing country because India is the largest, youngest country, and the growing youth needs the power for their for the like electronic devices, electric vehicles, air conditioning, they have high ambitions, and we have to supply this energy. But we don't want to increase the CO2 emission at the same time. So that's why the solution is the renewable energy resources. But if you are on the same page that renewable energy resources are important, then what are the problems? So these are the few challenges which is quite well known to the audience, which is related to the renewable energy resources. If you want to overcome these challenges, there are plethora of opportunities. The one is the energy storages. Energy storage technology, which can overcome the weather dependency, unpredictability, inconsistency of the renewable energy sources. So this is the schematic of my proposed hybrid system. We have two renewable energy generation source, the PV and the wind turbine. So this energy generated from this renewable will be supplied to the load. Then we have energy storage, the lithium-ion battery that I'm working on, modeling and simulation. So whatever the excess energy generated by the renewable resources will be stored in the battery. And when the load demand is more than the energy generated from the renewable, that gap will be compensated by the battery. I have used the physics-based battery model. So there was a question from the audience that why there is a difference between the modeling, the simulation, and actual reality. So in the next couple of slides, I will try to address that question also. So when we see the modeling, the first step is the actual engineering system. It can be IC engine or boiler or turbine. In my case, is the battery. The second step in the simulation and modeling is to understand the physics of the problem. What are the physical phenomena taking place inside that engineering system? Then we have to make some proper assumptions, because it is quite difficult to replicate the actual engineering system as it is. Then comes the mathematical model. Mostly these are the ordinary differential equations and partial differential equation. In case of battery, they are highly coupled partial differential equations. Once you have a mathematical model ready for your actual system which can mimic those things, we have to solve this equation more efficiently. Then comes the math. That's the numerical method. So there are finite difference method, finite elements method. There are different numerical methods to solve this system. So these are the steps to model any engineering system. So when you talk about the lithium-ion battery, this is the single cell, schematic representation of single cell, which has a, so these are the +2 level chemistry that I'm going to explain. There are two electrodes, one separator, and electrolyte between that. So we have an anode, which is made of graphite, and cathode, which is a lithium metal oxide, LiCoO2 in this case. So this battery is an electrochemical energy storage device. The electricity energy produced is the product of redox reaction that is happening inside the battery. At the anode, there is an oxidation reaction takes place which generates electron. And this electron flows through the external circuit. At the cathode, we had reduction reaction, which takes this electron and produces an ion. And lithium ion flows through the battery from cathode to the anode through the separator. There is a separator which permits the flow of lithium ions, but not the electron. And these reactions are reversible reactions. So when you charge your battery, you are storing the energy, the reaction flows in one direction, and when you are discharging the battery, the reaction happens in the opposite direction. So this is the electrochemistry physical process in a broad sense which is happening inside the lithium-ion battery. So lithium ions moves from one electrode to another and then again come back. So that is the intercalation and deintercalation. So this is a quite complex process to model and exactly predict the behavior of the lithium-ion battery. So this is the major challenge. So what we are doing now, as I mentioned in the mobile, initially, though it shows 100% charge, it lasts for a longer time because the model that is built in the battery is an equivalent circuit model. So by simply combining resistors and capacitor, we are trying to predict the battery behavior. That's why after some time, that model, which is the equivalent circuit model, we are trying to represent battery as the equivalent circuit, is not sufficient enough to predict the exact behavior of the battery. And that's why we are using the physics-based battery model, which will include the kinetics and this transport phenomena which is happening inside the battery. These are the some models of a battery. So the first one is the empirical model. So on a y-axis, we have CPU time. On x-axis, we have predictability. So when we talk about empirical models, the computational cost requires very low. But at the same time, we have to compromise with the, its accuracy. As we move on, the single particle model is the one-dimensional battery model, which is quite accurate as compared to the previous one, but its a computational requirement is higher. So as we slowly move in the direction and we try to include more and more physics and electrochemistry into the battery model, the computational cost required increases. So we need a high performance computing to simulate the battery if you want an accurate model. So it's not a problem that can't we have a 100% accurate? We can have, but at some time we have to find that golden point, the balance between the computational cost, the computational time, and the accuracy. So in my research work, I use the P2D model, this one. That's a pseudo two-dimensional model. We are taking lengthwise, and the pseudo dimension, there's a second dimension, we are considering the electrode as the one sphere, and in the radius direction also we are considering. And the discretization is done using finite volume method. This second reference mentioned at the bottom explain all the governing equations, its discretization method and validation. So now let's see the modeling of PV and wind turbine. So for PV, we use single diode equivalent circuit based model, which is well established in the literature. For MPPT, we use differential algebraic equation. In my case, I simulate the entire power plant in one code because there are a lot of coupled partial differential equation in the batteries. So for MPPT, which is a maximum power point tracking, we use differential algebraic equation base. So these are the two equations for the MPPT, the final one. And to calculate the output power from the wind turbine, I use this equation. This is the characteristic graph for the wind turbine. It is well established in the academia that we use, but our more focus was on the battery side. These are some results. So the data that I collected was for this residential area for the Wardha circle of Nagpur region in India. The coding is done in the MATLAB environment, and this is the specification of the system that I use. Because if I'm mentioning this, because the simulation time required depend on your algorithm and the capacity of your system. So graph A explain the solar radiation and the wind velocity pattern for the 24-hour. The entire simulation was done for the 1 day. And the second graph, graph B, is the hourly load profile, the energy requirement for the 24-hour. So if you see the first graph, it shows the power versus voltage for the PV panel. As I mentioned, the MPPT, so those who are from electrical background, it is quite common terminology. It's a maximum power point tracking. For given solar radiation, for particular value of voltage, the power generated is the maximum one. And we want to track this point because the PV panel are fixed, rigid. It is not tracking the solar radiation. So we have seen that for different solar radiation, the peak shifts. So there are different algorithms available. The popular one is the perturb and observe algorithm, but we have used a differential algebraic equation base, which is quite fast and accurate because the problem with P and O is that it fluctuates at that top point. The second graph is the power generated by the PV panel. We have seen that during the night period, there is no power generated because there is no solar radiation. The third graph is the power generated by the wind turbine. And the fourth one is the state of charge of a battery and the power supplied by the battery. So SOC is a state of charge. It indicates how much power is available in the battery. So 100% state of charge means battery is fully charged. So at the start of the simulation, the battery is 78% charged. During midnight to 6 o'clock in the morning, we have seen as there is no power generated by the PV, the battery is going to discharge. It is supplying the power. But if you see that this axis power supplied, there is some negative power also. So during the afternoon, negative power means we are actually storing the energy inside the battery. So I think in this graph it will be quite clear. So this color part, it shows this is the load requirement during night period. The power generated by the PV is 0, but at the same time there is a load requirement. So as per our model, the battery plus wind can successfully supply the load demand. So there is no discontinuity into that. And we are not generating the excess power also. So there is no issue of dumping of the energy. In this case, if we see in the afternoon, this is the load, and this is the power generated by PV. So from the graph, it is clear that PV is generating the more power, and this energy we are storing inside the battery. So this SOC is increasing. It means the battery is charging. And during the night period, there is a decrease in the state of charge of a battery. So allowable depth of discharge is 60% because we cannot fully drain the battery. So allowable depth of discharge at the time of design is 60%. So these are the main results. So my future work include the thermal modeling and chemical degradation also. So as the question raised, why the modeling is not that much accurate? Because it depends on assumption. In this initial study, I have not included the temperature variation in the atmosphere and the battery. But now I'm trying to include this thermal modeling also and chemical degradation because there are a lot of side reaction happening inside the battery which are unwanted, which actually decrease the performance of the battery. In the next future work, we are trying to consider the resource uncertainty because it is quite difficult to predict the solar radiation for next day or for next couple of months. So how much confident you are about your system that it will fulfill the load requirement. So this physics-based model can give you a rigid control on this optimization and control aspect also. Because if the PV area is more than the optimum area, then it is generating the more energy. So this extra energy you have to store in the battery, then it will increase the battery size, or you have to simply dump it into the ground. If the PV area is less than the optimum one, then again you have to increase the battery size because there will be more discharge because you have to satisfy the load demand. So only at the optimum PV area, there is the balance between energy going to the battery and energy supplied by the battery. So this also I am trying to include in my next work. So this is the conclusion of the work that we have proved that a physics-based battery model can be included in this framework, which will help to design a better power management control strategy. That's it. Thank you.